Hello, everyone. Good early evening from Bangkok time, and good morning or afternoon to those of you who are joining from other parts of the world. And thank you for joining. I'm Christa Hasenkopf, Director of the Clean Air Program at the University of Chicago's Energy Policy Institute, EPIC for short. And I'm thrilled to welcome you to this session of the Data to Action webinar series hosted by the Air Quality Life Index, or AQLI. For those of you new to the series, Data to Action spotlights the people and partnerships turning air quality data into cleaner air. We host these conversations about once per quarter. Lately, we've been having them more frequently just because there's been so much good stuff going on. And today's session captures the heart of what this series is all about. We'll be hearing about how small groups of high agency citizens in Thailand have used persistence, open data, and strategic storytelling, and I'd say persistence again, to push forward national movement on air pollution, even when it's an uphill battle. Because while air pollution is often treated as a technical or environmental or health problem, like nearly any problem in the world, it's fundamentally a story of human agency about people who decide that data shouldn't just describe the world, but help improve it. And they believe that they have the power to make those improvements happen. As you'll hear, the clean air story in Thailand is still a work in progress. That's the nature of clean air work anywhere. And you'll get to hear all the details about it shortly by a truly inspiring panel and our moderator. But the bottom line is that hopefully you find some takeaways that are relevant for the clean air work you're doing wherever that is around the world. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tanushree Ganguly, the director of the AQLI here at EPIC, for some context-setting remarks to start us off. Over to you, Tanushree.
So much, Krista. I'm going to quickly share my screen, and it would be lovely if, Krista, you could confirm that my screen's visible. Yes.
Yes,
Is
I
it
see the
now?
data to action. I see the data to action
Excellent.
Thailand thing. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Krista. And thank you, everyone who is tuned in today for this super interesting discussion. This promises to be a cracker of a conversation. At least that's what we've been discussing internally. Like Krista said, I'm Tanushree Ganguly, and I run a program called the Air Quality Life Index. To put simply, what Air Quality Life Index does is it lets people around the world see how much longer they could live if they had access to cleaner air. And the idea with us sort of providing people with this information is to raise political and public attention towards the issue of air pollution so that we can catalyze cleaner action globally. Now, in this process, what we do is every single year, we release an annual report which looks at global pollution trends and the impacts thereof on life expectancy for people living in different parts of the world. We also spotlight specific regions. As you can see on my screen right now, Thailand is a region that we've been covering for a while, primarily because air pollution has emerged as such a significant challenge in the country. This time, we went one step beyond. What we did is we revamped our entire website to democratize access to information. To put things to perspective, what this means is that every single piece of information that you will see in my presentation is something that you can generate. So no matter where you are in the world, right now, if you're tuning us from Thailand, you can strengthen your case for action by simply going onto our website. You'll see the link appear across all my slides, and I'll help you navigate it a little bit during the course of my presentation. Now, what I'm going to do right now is sort of set a context, the context in which community action, citizen-led action is driving change in Thailand. And of course, there are many different statistics which are available, but what I thought is for the purpose of this presentation, I will distill all of it to 4 basic questions. And what I want to say is that our thesis with these webinar series has been to understand how citizens can meaningfully engage on the issue of air pollution. And for meaningful engagement, it's also important for citizens to be equipped with very specific insights on points of intervention. So with a little bit of thinking around specific points on which interventions could happen, I've framed my slides. It'll be super short because we really want to hear from our excellent speakers who've made time for this webinar today. So insight number 1, and this is sort of loud and clear message, which is coming from different studies, including us, which is that an average resident of Thailand could gain nearly 2 years of life expectancy if they had access to cleaner air. By cleaner air, I mean what the World Health Organization defines as clean air. The flip side of this is if the current levels of pollution continue in Thailand, then every Thai citizen could be at the risk of losing 2 years of their life. So air pollution is cutting your lives short. A little more nuance to this story is the fact the impacts are also highly unequal. So while the average number is about 2 years, the most polluted regions in the country, people are at the risk of losing more than 3.5 years of their life. Just imagine what you could do if you had 3 more years to live. And if you want to realize that, then we need access to cleaner air. The second major insight, and this is where it gets really concerning, which is that pollution in Thailand is on the rise. In just the last 5 years, our analysis shows a 15% increase in pollution levels. So what this means is that the levels that we saw in 2017, if they were sustained, people could live 4 months longer than they are currently living because the pollution has increased by 15% between 2017 and 2023. So even if you just compare the recent past, people are now at the risk of losing more years of their life because of air pollution. Insight number 3, which is setting aside the WHO standard, the country is struggling to meet its own national standard of 15 microgram per meter cube, which I want to remind itself is 3 times higher than the WHO standard. So you see that dark blue region on Thailand. So that dark blue means that every single region down to the district level in Thailand does not meet the country's own standard of 15 microgram per meter cube. And here's where it gets interesting. Even if every region in the country were to meet its own national standard, then people could live a year longer. So here is a message very loud and clear for the policymakers that let's first prioritize meeting the country's national standard if we want the citizens to live longer and better lives. And my fourth and most important insight is that air pollution is the greatest external threat in Thailand, which means that the impact of air pollution in Thailand is greater than other risks like tobacco, dietary risks, or transport injuries. What this means is that public health expenses, which probably go more towards some of these other issues, rightly so perhaps, should also account for the damages that air pollution is imposing on people's lives. Now, with that context, I want to open it up for conversation to see that with these challenges in mind, or with these challenges forming the backdrop, what are our community actors doing to address air pollution in Thailand? I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it back to Christa to take us forward.
Thanks so much, Tanushree, for really distilling very clearly, I think, the air pollution and health map in Thailand and the landscape. And I think it orients us well as we get into the panel. So to moderate our panel today, we have the pleasure of inviting Preeti Jha, an award-winning journalist who has lived in and reported across Southeast Asia. She's now in London, covering stories at the intersection of politics, health, and human rights, and increasingly the growing movement for clean air. Her stories have run in the BBC, AFP, and elsewhere. In fact, you may have most recently caught her New York Times article on the role low-cost sensors are playing in sparking action across the world, including Thailand. And she hasn't just covered air pollution issues, she's also been engaged as a citizen too. For example, she's been active in the Breathe London community program. So with that, I'll put you into the highly capable expert hands of Preeti. Over to you, Preeti.
Thanks so much, Christa. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited for our conversation today about the role that data plays in driving action on air pollution. Thailand rightly takes center stage as one of the countries, as we've just heard, worst affected by poor air quality, but also because it's home to one of the world's most exciting citizen-led movements, tackling this public health crisis head-on. So we're going to hear from 3 stellar panelists at the forefront of driving change in Thailand on what it takes to unpack and shape this narrative on air pollution. I just wanted to describe and introduce them briefly in turn. First up, we have Lulitanonda, a former World Bank economist who 8 years ago co-founded the Thailand Clean Air Network. That's a group of citizens that developed a clean air bill, which just 2 weeks ago was approved by nearly all of the MPs voting at the Thai Parliament. We'll learn more about this brilliant milestone in just a few minutes. But the bill right now is making its way through the Thai Senate, and if green-lighted, it will be passed into law. We also have Kandhana Apirapakon, also from the Thailand Clean Air Network, a long-time branding and marketing expert who leads on all the communications for the group. And she can tell us more about how they've been building momentum so effectively in this space. And finally, we have Achim Haug, a former project manager at the engineering firm Siemens, who 6 years ago founded the company Air Gradient, which designs open source air quality monitors and advocates for open air pollution data across the world. We'll have around 20 minutes for our discussion, and I'll leave around 10 at the end for questions from those of you watching. So please do post questions as they come to you in the chat box, and I will try and run through as many of them as possible. Great. So let us dive straight in, and I would love to start with Veena. Congratulations, first up, on this major win, as we were discussing just before, a few weeks ago. It marks one of the first times a citizen-led clean air bill has been approved by a parliament in any country around the world. And I think everyone would love to know, how did this movement begin?
Thank you so much for your kind introduction, Preeti. I'd say it's a huge and ginormous team effort to get where we got to at the moment. This already started 8 years ago, and it really was a personal journey. I'm a runner, and I started to see the impact of getting some really terrible migraines that just wasn't actually going away. And I was tacitly aware of some of the air quality issues and was suspicious that it may be that. But it was about 3 weeks after seeing my own symptoms that I heard the government had announced that, that the air quality outside was pretty toxic. And that kind of led to a sense of, I would put it mildly, rage. A sense of, well, okay, this is not okay. I mean, as an individual, I should be able to have the right information to take decisions that has impact on my health. And, my nephews also have really bad nosebleeds and stuff like that. So it all started that way, from a one-person effort. It became a two-person effort, became a four-person effort, and now we're sort of a 7-person strong core team with a huge network of strategic partners that include incredible people like Achim. And others who are joining us. So that's sort of how it all started, sort of from a sense of injustice, that that the right to breathe itself is a fundamental right to life that we all should have, and that we should have that information to be able to take really basic life decisions. Yeah.
That makes total sense. And so often I found it really is a personal story that then leads to engagement with air pollution. I think maybe a good time to bring in Kandhana here, could tell us a bit more about how you went from that, this founding of the, I think you call it TaiCan for short, how you went from that to engaging people. How did you turn something that can often feel quite invisible, people say, on air pollution and abstract, into something more tangible? How did you build this momentum?
Okay. Thanks for the question. It's been a journey as well. So me working in advertising, creating some urgencies, call to action to do certain things was very easy when comparing to the work that I'm doing for Thai Clean Air Network. It's like when you want to create something, get people to move to act, you definitely want to create this design a message that shocks people and makes them feel something, like want to do something. But when we do this, and only wanting to create the urgency of getting people out to, hey, we want clean air, and then what next? It's like telling someone that you have cancer and you must change your lifestyle. They may understand the danger, but to make the behavior change doesn't happen overnight. It requires new knowledge, new habits, and time. So when communicating urgency alone is not enough, we may have to do a lot more. So I think the biggest challenge in Thailand is not only that air pollution feels invisible. It is that many people feel powerless to change it. So forest communication couldn't start just with creating urgency or fear. It has to start with rebuilding agencies.
I think this is a good time to bring in Achim as well, because I think as part of making things tangible and to build agency, I think data does play a role, as I know that you found, and that's been sort of at the crux of Air Gradient's mission. Could you tell us a little bit more about the role that data has been playing in driving behavior change and driving awareness and engagement with air pollution?
Yeah, thank you, Preeti, for the introduction. I think this brings us actually right back to how we started. So I'm living in Thailand since nearly 20 years now, and my kids go to school. And in 2019, I was on a sabbatical, also parents president at my kids' school. And I think probably Meena and Kandhana probably remember 2019, which was probably one of the worst seasons. And I'm living just right where you have the darkest colors in your map, unfortunately. So when this pollution season hit really hard, like the school didn't know, are the classrooms safe? You know, the parents didn't know, should they keep the kids at home? Can they send them to school? The school was experimenting with different types of air purifiers. They actually didn't know which ones work well, which ones don't work. And that's when we came in and said, okay, like we have to measure the air quality. You know, we need data to really understand the situation. So we put then air quality monitors in each classroom as a volunteer project. And then actually for the first time, the school got this transparency that they could see like which spaces, yeah, like they can open, which spaces they have to close, how to rearrange the purifiers, for example. And so this data is actually how we started, and also seeing how this really like drove change. So with that school where we started, like, so when they realized actually the air purifiers don't work very well, like the following year they looked at more professional equipment. And a lot of the vendors, like, you know, came with all kinds of promises. So they just said, okay, we install 4 different systems in 4 different classrooms. We put in monitors. We go through the next pollution season, and then actually we can see what works and what doesn't work. So this role, and this is a very, very kind of local application. Like in one school, they can already see like how the data helps. The same in your household, you know, like you want to see like does in Delhi right now, for example, does the air purifier work well enough or not? But we can actually, and that's what we did then with Air Gradient, we kind of translated this effect that we have very localized into a kind of global effect, where we say like we have to develop the monitors basically in a way, and the communication, which is the key thing then, to make this invisible thing, you know, which maybe just makes us cough or headache, a lot more visible. And so if we can create this kind of awareness through data, then the awareness actually can create accountability. And that's, I think, where it can be on a very low level. It can be the head of school, you know, that suddenly is confronted with the data. I mean, she was very cooperative, so which was great. But let's say if somebody is less cooperative, actually the parents can come in with the data and make a case for clean air in the classroom, similar to what Veena and Kandhana did for the whole country. So you can create, with the data, you can create this kind of accountability. And also data in the first step is neutral. You know, it's like it's just a value, and then you have the WHO, which says, okay, you should be there, and then you most of the time you see a certain gap, and then it can go into a very productive, hopefully, discussion. Then, okay, how can we close the gap? And that's basically then the base to drive change.
Yeah, no, thanks, Achim. And Kandhana, how have you been sort of incorporating data in the narrative that you have been building as part of your movement?
Oh, data has been essential. It's been we've been using a lot, but data alone doesn't move people. Data is like a spine. but we need a soul in the body to really do something. For data, actually, to mobilize action, I think there are two things that important in Thai context. So first, data must be, as I mentioned earlier, a personalized or even like localized, personalized. I think these two things are similar. So different people experience the same AQI number very differently. A healthy adult might not feel anything at the AQI of 80, but a child with asthma can end up in an emergency room at the same level. So we don't just show the city's air quality, we show your school, your neighbor, your market, and we explain what it means for you. This is about moving from interesting information to the effect that what can affect my family today. And the second thing, I think data must be linked to action. So it should show this is what happened today, what you can do today. And this is the policy that we need to fix at the root cause. Because I think the long-term solution is not an individual behavior change. It's not just about not stop driving cars. It's better regulation, better standard, transparency, and funding to support the cleaner practice. And that's when the data become a tool for collective agency, not just creating awareness.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's key, isn't it? How you use that data, how you personalize it, make it relevant, and then the bigger picture on change, which will bring us back to Veena, I think, on the bill. You know that we mentioned you successfully seen it being passed by MPs at Parliament. It's now at the Senate. Could you? I think it'd be fascinating for people who are in different parts of the world to hear, like, what is the bill? Like, could you tell us a few of the key components and the main ones really that you're hoping will drive change?
Yeah, okay, thanks for that question. I think in your earlier question, I didn't quite give the full background of our group. And what we have in our group is actually a mixture of people with very strong skill sets that complement each other very well. So we have a very solid legal team. So we have led by our environmental lawyer, and she has a breadth of experience in legal reform work. We also have human rights lawyers, we have finance lawyers, we have public sector lawyers. We have economists in our group, so not just myself, we've also got environmental economists in there. We've got a medical doctor in there as well. We collaborate a lot with our air pollution scientists, and we've got Kandhana and her team. So what I'm trying to say is, because of the skill sets that we bring to bear, and we've got a medical doctor as well, this is ultimately a very complex systemic problem. And it requires the know-how and the knowledge of everybody to come together and weave together our know-how to be able to solve this problem. It's cross-ministerial, it's cross-sectorial, right? It's not just a silo, one sectorial issue. And having said that, I would say that's why the clean air legislation is so critically important. And I would categorize the three key features of what's in this one as the first thing is the right to clean air. Giving people the right to clean air, which is fundamentally the right to life itself. And what it does is it then creates the obligation of the state to respect, protect, and fulfill that right for all its citizens. Going back to what Kandhana was saying about how data and how different types of air quality impacts people differently. And one of the groups that we are very concerned about, which is very much focused in this legislation, is vulnerable groups. Vulnerable groups includes children, particularly those under the age of 5. It includes pregnant women. It includes older people. It includes anyone who's sick. And it includes people who work outdoors in the elements, because the exposure that they are subjected to in toxic air quality periods. The second key feature is the concept of co-management. And this is very, very unique in Thailand. And the concept is co-management between the state and civil society in addressing this. And by civil society, we mean all of us are civil society members. And we all have various expertise and knowledge and know-how to bring to the table, and opening that gap. And that's critically important, is to assist in this very complicated problem. And I think the third big key feature of this important legislation is the concept of economic incentives. So if you go back and look at the very ethos of environmental legislation is not a top-down legislation that enforces changes. And even if you do try to do that, right, it has not been effective, right? So a very simple case. How would you stop all the fields in Thailand from being burned in the burning season? Will we bring to bear every single soldier and every single policeman we have to run around and monitor it? No, it's not possible. So an important ethos of environmental legislation and also of economics is the concept of bringing the right economic incentives for economic actors to change their behavior. And that is the concept of bringing carrots, but also sticks as well, sanctions when that's not being abided by. And we incorporate the concept of polluter pays principle into this. Polluters pay for what they've done, and the money coming through from polluters is channeled into a very important clean air fund. Now that is a critical component, because having enough money, Kandhana had referenced it, and we all know, anybody in this space pretty much know that there's absolutely no money, whether in Thailand or globally, to address air quality, which is ridiculous because we all need to breathe to remain alive, but that's a different thing. So without money, you can't solve this problem. And this fund is critically important. It will do different things. One of it is actually to assist operators who are eligible and are unable to transition, because we are cognizant of the fact that clean technology is not cheap. And so for that, to do that, it's also to help with environmental justice for victims. It is also meant to help with research and development work. It is also meant to help with taking care of health of sick victims in areas where it is already not being covered under the universal health system in Thailand. So there are many, many uses of it. The crux of it really is to try to shift behavior, so that when you shift behavior, that's how you're going to have the change. Because at the end of the day, there's no us or them when it comes to air quality. We are breathing the same thing in. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Veena. And it seems building this economic case really has been a key component. And on that, I wondered the pushback that you might be getting in Thailand, the resistance, the economic case ties into building an argument, I'm sure. How else are you trying to counter the resistance? Can you tell us about that and how you manage it? Because it could be useful for others, I think, as well.
Yeah, so I think there have been a lot of analysis that I've done in terms of how much it's costing Thailand as a country, air pollution, and we've got figures that were from 6% of our GDP all the way out to around 10 or 11% of our GDP, right? And this is health costs, this is opportunity costs, people falling sick, not being able to productivity loss that happens. It's also lost to very key sectors. For example, tourism. Thailand's a huge tourism sector, and no one wants to come to this country and breathe toxic air, right? And the toxic air period happens to coincide with our peak travel season. So there is a huge economic loss on many, many fronts. So we've communicated that out quite clearly. And the work from the AQLI, the Air Quality Life Index work, the incredible work done by the University of Chicago has been absolutely phenomenal. And we've cited that a lot, to tell people, your life is being cut short by 2 years prematurely, right? And we're not talking about, hey, you just dropped dead. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, it is really, really bad illnesses. We're talking about cancer. We're talking about really terrible heart disease. We're talking about dementia. We're talking about, Alzheimer's. These are really critically sick illnesses that are chronic, and it does lead to fatality. So that period of life, quality of life, is not there. And so a lot of times it is not just showing the numbers from just pure economics, it's also trying to communicate to people at a very human level. Because I think one of the things that we've realized is that with the different modes of persuasion, we are very good with pathos and ethos, but the thing that's going to move people, we're very good with logos and ethos, but when it comes to pathos, which is emotion, that is the crux to the doing and the knowing doing gap that people have.
Yeah,
and that's And that's
Sorry.
what we are trying to do with our communication. Yeah. And with whether it's economics or how much sooner you're dying, or how to try to convey that, and to try to tell people, there really is no, there is a sense of trying to create the sense of otherness and othering people, and that's something we're trying to push back against. So, for example, right now, one of the narrative that we've gotten today, which seems ridiculous, is that there was a joint committee represented by the Federation of Thai Industry, the Thai Chamber of Commerce, and as well as the Thai Bankers Association. And they've come out formally to say they're against the clean air legislation, and their claim is that, oh, it's really going to be bad for SMEs. And it's like, in all due respect, in terms of actual footprint in this, I don't think the SMEs are one of the biggest polluters out there. And in all due respect, they will probably qualify for a lot of funding support through the Clean Air Fund, Yeah.
Super interesting. Kandhana, does this now affect your narrative and strategy building in sort of like the ways you'll counter that messaging going forwards?
It's been setting strategy when communicating this it's been difficult. It's been a learning process, and we failed in the beginning actually because we thought giving knowledge, getting people to understand the effects, showing presentation, showing a lot of data, researchers would help. When people understand, when people has knowledge, they will stand up, they will be powerful, and they will make change. It was not like that, and we learned the hard way. But when like Weenarin said, when we can actually make them feel relevance to them, make them feel that this is their problem, and make them feel that they have a power to change and do something. There are actually stages, there's steps that we actually listed down a little bit. Like the first step was we have to build trust and share understanding. And by doing this is not just like showing data, as I said. It's like telling them how dirty air steal their health and income, or their children's, what are their children's breathing now? What's the effect? The second step was like to empowering with the knowledge. So not the lecture style. We have to use the simple language, the visual and everyday example to make them understand and have make them know that this matters to them. The third one is focusing on mobilizing collective action. So we work with voices people naturally trust, like doctor, priest, monks, spiritual leaders, community leaders. And also we do creating like public expression, like nose exhibition, work with artists, composing songs, doing music videos. And lastly, we have to show them what we can connect the grassroots energy to the policy. So this has to be simplified, the legal draft, into plain language that the community can understand. So that's how we do it.
Thank you. Some really important points there. Achim, I just would love to bring you back in on the work you're doing, which I know is also trying to connect the data back to people. And you've got some exciting projects that I think, one in particular about this global app that I think it'd be great to hear about.
Yeah, sure. So like when we started and then developed these monitors, I think the first couple of years, we figured out how to produce them, that they're accurate, that they're relatively affordable, how to ship them into like 90 countries. And then last year, when we kind of figured out all this stuff and we did pretty well with the hardware, we felt we are still falling short from an impact perspective. We figured out the hardware, the data, but we somehow felt like there's still something missing, basically. So we set up something we call internally Air Gradient 3.0, which I think underlines the importance. And what's behind is basically how can we maximize our impact? And for this, we founded a program we call Clean Air Advocates, which is basically these applications, but it's a bigger platform. And the idea behind is that we create a platform that's localized, that can be used all around the world, that's also open source, that can be used by, like local groups. I just had a call with UNICEF a couple of hours ago. It can be used by, my kids' school. It can be used by NGOs like, Thailand Clean Air Network, for example, that helps them to make the data more meaningful. But that's only the first step. And then to encourage actually behavior change towards lowering like your pollution, your own pollution, and also carbon emissions, because I think that goes really, really hand in hand. And the way it works, though, the apps that we currently publish are our first step. And what we want to do then, I'll just give you an example. Let's say a school in Laos sets up a clean air club. Okay. Now, this platform would then allow the students, for example, to submit activities that they do towards lowering air pollution. So it could be like a YouTube video, it could be a workshop at the school, or it could be going to the village leaders talking about them with air quality. So they can submit this, and then teachers or other community leaders can then award points for this activity to these students. Now, if we get some local businesses on board, for example, coffee shops in the same village, put them on the map and say, hey, look, like this coffee shop actually gives you a discount or free coffee for your points. We actually create some kind of market mechanism for behavior change. So that's the bigger picture. And the way we envision is it's really a kind of decentralized platform, open source, so it's not belonging to us or anybody, that then these local communities can actually jump on and have something that they can use to drive change. Because in my opinion, like political climates change every 4 years massively. We have to find ways which I always say that the revolution has to come from the people, from the bottom up. So if we can create this kind of platform where we can motivate and incentivize like this behavior change, I think it can become a very, very powerful tool to then basically make the final step, which is cleaner air.
That's so interesting and amazing how you're tailoring it in different ways, in different contexts. I'm just seeing that we're getting some questions through, and I'd love to encourage more. So whenever you get them, throw them into the chat box. A few from Tanushree here. So one for Kandhana, again, on what people's agency should look like. I think you and Veena mentioned that, but would you like to elaborate on that, one or both of you? Oh, you're on mute, just to come back on. Mm-hmm.
So what people agency should look like? Well, I'm not good at give the definition, but I can just give some example that we will see people's agency when we see parents start asking for the school whether they have the protocols for for the kids to feel safe and come to school, and knowing what kind of activity suits the day. We start seeing artists posting something or composing songs. We start to see priests and monks speaking about responsibilities. And we start seeing engineers and scientists coming up with research evidence. And lastly, we can see some of the politicians who never ever were interested in this topic before starting copying our phrase and saying something that makes them look good.
I love that answer. I love that answer. So a bit tangible, actually, all specific things. Thank you. And for Veena, the question from Tanushree here is, what should platforms for co-management of air pollution look like?
So in specifically in the legislation, we've actually provided the positions for very qualified civil society members. So we need an expert in this, and they need to come from, we've opened it up to ensure that civil society who have the skill set to bear will have the space to be able to do that. And we are at the decision table. It's not just provide your advice and be off. It's you are part of the decision-making process in this entire space. Beyond that, we've also provided for avenues for, citizen watchdog systems and programs. And we also have platforms at a provincial level, because we believe that there's no one size fits all solution, and that a lot of these issues are very, very regional at provincial levels. And so people who are living from that area will have the ability to qualify to sit at their own committee levels to come up with solutions and to drive it forward. Yeah.
Thank you, Veena. There's also a question for Achim. You touched on a little bit already on how you're seeing people engaging with data, but I think there's an interesting one on the sorts of questions they ask when they start generating the data. That's quite a good practical question there from Tanushree.
Yeah, so I think what we see is like when people see like data for the first time, that they're trying to understand the data. They're trying to see like what are the potential sources of the air pollution? What are certain patterns? So for example, we see often in Thailand that during the afternoons, the air quality actually improves, and in the night it's much worse. And that helps them then also to, protect themselves better. So if they if they go running, for example, to put this maybe towards the afternoon. So kind of really understanding kind of what's going on. Sometimes also indoor air pollution, if they use wood burning, for example, inside, okay, they see, wow, suddenly this is so bad, that they can change behaviors. I think what's a second thing that's quite interesting is actually comparing data. And there was a really interesting story. So I think 2 or 3 months back, we worked with a researcher in Colorado, and she works with high school students. And she actually called me up and said, "Hey, Achim, we have a problem." I said, "What's your problem?" "Our air quality is too good. Like we like, I want to show and explain to the kids that, air pollution is a problem. But at that time, it was really, really good." And then she asked me, "Yeah, can you connect me with a school somewhere else?" And actually, just coincidentally, a couple of days earlier, I had a call with somebody doing a project in Ghana with a high school. And at that time, they had terrible air quality. So I connected basically these 2 schools, and they started like exchanging data. And I think that's really important, because often like you just see what's around you, and you don't see what's possible. So when the students in Ghana saw, wow, the air quality can be that good, they start asking the right questions. Why is it that bad in my city, in my country? And I think also for the high school students in Colorado, to see actually, wow, it can be a real problem, I think is very eye-opening. So I think, and at the heart is really this like dealing with data, understanding data, trying to make sense of it, I think is the key thing there.
Thank you. It's again such a great example, I think, to understand this globally. We've got a question from Yasmin Yao. Thank you so much. She thanks you for the great session, and congrats on the Clean Air Bill. And the question is, how are you using health data to also demonstrate the impacts? And how are communities engaging with the health data? And how will you measure the benefits on health care and the economy after the implementation of the Clean Air Bill? Okay, and there's a few questions there. I'm wondering who wants to sort of take that first. Maybe one for you, Veena.
Yeah, just really quickly, that's the key thing that's very unique about this legislation. It's the first time we've actually brought the concept of environment and public health together, because without a clean environment, you'll never have good health, right? And so that's been very, very a critical part of this. And one of the things that we've incorporated in this bill is a concept of the air quality health index. So actually personalizing health very specifically for vulnerable groups, and in the entire world, I understand it's only Canada and Hong Kong that actually has it. And we've mandated it into the legislation. So in this way, people can actually manage it at a very customized, personalized level, how this air quality is impacting their health. In terms of the measurement part of it, I think it will, I mean, if we're talking about 6% of GDP as the cost of health that the country is bearing. My public sector experts tell me around 5% is actually when the system starts breaking at the seams. So we're at crisis level. So any movement beyond this, pushing us back into the fray is actually will be something that will be greatly beneficial. And I think one of the things too that we've come to realize in working, we initially took a very strong health angle and worked directly with the Ministry of Public Health. And one of the key things that it's been quite challenging is there are great silos everywhere, including within the health sector. and so health data is sort of there's a whole little different silos. But I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is to break the silos. And one of the key things that we've been trying to push for doctors to do, which will help on the health data side of it, is to be very dogmatic when they actually denote cases of clients that come to them, patients that come to them, whose case is highly likely due to environmental cause and highly likely linked to air pollution. We're starting to already see this. There's around 6 or 8 clinics in Thailand that actually provide that type of analysis, but actually it needs to be rolled out throughout the country and to have that running. So I think that would be one way. You need to have that data, and with that, you're able to measure, how the numbers are improving over time.
That's fascinating. How you're connecting the story basically with the data and the actual impact. Thank you. I think we have time for one more question, and there's one from the team here on. So again, I'll pose it and see who would like to take it on. Which is the easiest group to activate on air pollution, and the other side of that is which is the most difficult group to activate, and what can be done to bring this difficult group to the table. So who's the easiest and who's the most difficult? Maybe Kandhana, you'd like to jump in.
We used to think parents are the other easiest group to activate. But at the end of the day, some parents are very caught up with the raising work that they're doing, struggling with the things that they have in front of them. So we were not quite right, but not quite right about that. But surprisingly, the younger generation was not in our thought in the beginning. But eventually they have time. They are more interested in the world that we have left for them. So at the moment, and I actually find that younger generation are easier to activate, to get them interested. But in order to keep them, sustaining them with the thing that we are feeding them, we have to really try hard, have that arts and listen a lot, and then adjusting the way and be very flexible. So it's easy and difficult at the same times, but I would say younger generation. Do you think differently, Weena? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, but actually there's one group, and Achim probably, and I think it's based on what we chatted on about actually, Achim. And we'd heard about that Chiang Mai has a pretty active community and da-di-da-di-da. And that's been the reputation. And I think actually through talking to you, Achim, it actually dawned upon me. It's actually because of the large expat population in Chiang Mai. It's not the Thais in Chiang Mai. It's the expats in Chiang Mai. And it's the long-term expats in Chiang Mai. And from my direct experience, for example, we've got, we have a cover for our the citizen-led clean air legislation. Do you know who designed it? A lady in Portugal who lives in Lisbon. She heard about us through the RSA. She loved what we did. She reached out. She said, "That's my skill set." She said, "Let me know what I can do." And she is the designer of our book cover. There was another gentleman. He's from the UK. He moved to Thailand literally within the first 2 days. Realized how bad the air quality is. Googled our group, reached out to us, bought 3 of our t-shirts, asked for all our logos, created a banner, walked around Bangkok with a sign telling people to sign up on our petition. Those are active citizens. Having said that, the challenging part is a lot of expats. A lot of them are not here for the long haul. And so the continuity isn't there. And it's also beyond that. This is a Thai issue. Thais really have to step up and fight this battle, right? I mean, what happens in the parliament, no expert's going to be able to understand what is happening and how things are changing, and it moves and weaves every 5 seconds. So it is really, really challenging. The news, for example, if you don't read Thai news, you won't actually understand what's happening because it's not there. The nuance aren't there, or it's not even covered at all. And going to the most difficult people, I would find the business people. Yeah, the ones that are really pulling the strings. They're very myopic in their viewpoint. They don't look beyond their quarterly numbers. I mean, I've spoken to people who are factory owners, and their point is, and they said, "Oh yeah, of course, I love to have clean air, but if it's going to create any slight increase in my cost of doing business, there's no way I'm going to support this." Right. Yeah. And I almost want to say, I hear you, but you're probably more exposed than I am because you're at your factory.
That's one of the ways to bring them to the table, to make it personal for them as well.
Yeah. So
maybe I want to just throw in something quickly. I agree with Kandhana and Weenarin, but I have also a theory. So I traveled quite often to Africa recently, and the young generation is so energetic there. It's unbelievable. It's nothing I saw in Europe or in Asia or in Americas. So I think there's definitely a drive from the young generation, but I also have a theory what's a difficult group, and I think it comes back to what Veena said. You have more fundamental issues you have to deal with in your life. You don't have enough food on the table, or you don't have a job, or somebody in your family is sick. So I think there's a certain correlation with like how well you are off, and at some point you start more caring about like air pollution. That could be the reason why the expats are driving it so much, because on the one hand, yes, they probably have maybe less of the fundamental issues to deal with. Then they also probably know, okay, the air is really bad because they're not used to that. So I think this is something that we always have to keep in mind, that if I don't have enough to eat, then the food has probably a higher priority than cleaner air. And making these long-term impacts doesn't make it easier. It's not like you have a car that's nearly breaking down, and if you have an accident, you will get insured. Then you have a much more immediate need to fix something than like, okay, I might die 3 years earlier in 30 years. That's, I think, that the problems we are dealing with here.
Thanks so much, all of you. I think we are getting close to wrap-up time, so just want to say a big thank you for all of your brilliant answers, and to the audience as well for sharing their questions. Just to sort of have a few quick takeaways, because I want to pass back to Christa. I think we've talked about today the importance of data in sort of telling the story, driving the narrative in air pollution, the importance of making it personal, to make sure that it's tangible, and that in turn is something that can be tackled. But we've also talked about that data isn't really enough. It's the starting point. It's the action that comes from collaboration between different groups. Veena mentioned the importance of breaking silos, and Kandhana mentioned the importance of maintaining engagement, even among groups that you think are important. And I think what I loved as well is that this is truly global. Achim, you brought this out in different ways. What we can learn from each other is really key, because this isn't a problem anyone's going to solve alone. It does take this collaboration. So yeah, with that, thank you for sharing what you did. Very inspired by the Thailand Draft Clean Air Act, and look forward to sort of hearing more on that. But yes, thank you to Christa, and back to you.
Thanks so much, Preeti. And thank you, all of you. It was a fantastic conversation. Absolutely captivating, and also very inspiring, but also very grounded in what it actually takes, the reality of it, the years of work, the small groups who slog away with very few resources, but make a huge difference. And I think it's a great and realistic story to share with others across the world. Kandhana mentioned, it's not just about using data and stories for communicating urgency and relevance, important stuff, but that this word agency kept coming up in conversations, and that really sticks with me. And as Weena mentions, a key ingredient to clean air action is also resources. And to be blunt, that means money. And there's no way around it it's just lacking in the space to globally to support clean air, despite it being the largest global threat to health. And at EPIC, this is a core question we are asking with our work. How can we put the necessary resources, whether it's information, funding in terms of money, or solutions in the hands of more people that you heard from on the panel today, but many others who are not here, but are part of this specific story, but the larger global story too. The kind of folks, whether they're an advocate or a government official or a scientist or running an air quality monitoring company, or an ordinary citizen who, if you give an inch, they will take a mile. And I do mean that in the best way possible. So on that note, next week at COP, we'll be launching a 2025 Clean Air Investment Map. It's a tool designed to highlight where the biggest outsized opportunities exist to support leaders like those you heard from today, but where there is very little basic data or resources to get to a critical mass of action. So it's about helping funders, governments, and citizens see where smart and even small investments to start could drive large-scale clean air change nationally. So we plan to use it ourselves again next year, and we anticipate having another call for the EPIC Air Quality Fund, and please stay tuned. So as we close, I want to thank our panel and our moderator again, and all of you listening in to join us. If today's conversation inspired you, please stay connected, follow AQLI, and join us for our next Data to Action webinar. And tell us who we should invite to be our next guest, which will happen in 2026, as we continue to spotlight the people proving that data doesn't just describe the world, it can change it. Thank you, everyone.